I'm married and 33 years old. My husband David and I have been married for 10 years, and we have a first-grade daughter named Betty. We're a family of 3. I've loved drawing since I was a kid, and now I work in the arts. I'm also pregnant with our second child, and each day gets harder as my belly grows. Even though David is very busy, he tries to come home early and helps with chores and taking care of our daughter. Life was good until something recently started bothering me. We live on the first floor of a high-rise apartment building. The other day, while coming back from shopping, I saw a woman moving into our building. It turned out to be Emma, a classmate from middle school. I hadn't seen her since then. When she saw me, she was surprised and asked if I lived there too. I said yes, and she told me she was moving in. Emma's face changed when she realized I was living in the same building as her. She was shocked that a high school dropout like me lived in the first-floor apartment. She seemed to take pleasure in the fact that I was on the first floor, while she was on the 35th floor. She bragged about how her apartment had great views and how she was starting her own business, using the apartment as both her home and office. She asked me about my job, and I told her I worked in art. Emma was dismissive and acted like drawing wasn't a real job. I felt hurt, so I told her that I had turned something I love into a career. Emma didn't seem impressed and suggested that I must be making very little money, like $900 a month. Just then, David and our daughter Betty came by. Emma looked them over and said something rude about David's work clothes and our income. I felt insulted and finally snapped at her, but she just kept being disrespectful and condescending. Finally, I'd had enough of Emma's rudeness. I told her she needed to apologize for what she said about my husband. Emma just laughed and asked why she should apologize. Then she noticed my pregnancy and commented that it must be tough financially with another child on the way. She questioned if we could even afford to live in our apartment. I didn't want to hear any more of Emma's nasty comments, so I grabbed David and Betty and went home. Emma called after us, inviting us to visit her on the 35th floor for a better view, but I ignored her. I couldn't stop feeling angry at Emma all day. That night, after Betty went to sleep, David asked what happened. I told him how Emma had made fun of me for dropping out of school and belittled my work. David was furious. He knew about my past and had chosen to marry me knowing who I am. We decided to avoid Emma for a while. Fortunately, we didn't run into Emma for a month, which allowed us to live peacefully. Then, one day we received an invitation to a school reunion. I was excited to catch up with my old friends, even though I was a bit worried about running into Emma again. But since I wanted to see my friends, I decided to go. The reunion was held in a hotel ballroom. As soon as I arrived, I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. We had a great time catching up, talking about our families and careers. But then, out of nowhere, we heard Emma's voice behind us, saying something rude about being around poor people. As expected, she was still the same. Emma showed up at the reunion too, but we didn't notice her at first because we were focused on talking with our close friends. Emma was wearing heavy makeup and a flashy dress that seemed out of place. She had always been self-centered and made awkward comments back in middle school, so we weren't surprised to see she hadn't changed. We rolled our eyes when she arrived. One of my friends finally spoke up and asked Emma who she was calling poor. Emma replied, "Who else but Mary? She's a dropout, so she must be poor and lives on the first floor. I live on the 35th floor, so it's like a master-servant relationship." Emma laughed after saying this, and some friends were upset and confronted her, but she didn't seem sorry at all. Emma kept making rude comments, suggesting I should move to a cheaper apartment if I didn't want to be caught poor. She even told me to leave the reunion, since I supposedly earned only $900 a month. My friends were confused and asked if I really only made $900 a month. I explained that's just what Emma believes. Emma then interrupted and said I was only working a part-time job because of being a dropout. While she was a CEO, a male classmate spoke up and said, "Emma, don't you know Mary is a well-known artist?" Emma looked puzzled and asked, "An artist? Who cares?" I decided to clear things up with Emma. not wanting her arrogance to ruin the reunion. I told her that I had studied art in France right after middle school and didn't complete a formal program. So yes, I dropped out. Emma scoffed and said, "Studying art is just a hobby, not a real job. You're still a dropout who ran away from studying." Emma clearly didn't understand. I decided to explain more about my work. I told Emma that I had spent years training and now run an art gallery while also creating my own artwork. I have fans and have even held my own exhibitions. Some of our classmates have bought my art. After training in France, I returned to New York and started my art career, which has become successful in recent years. David and I met at one of my exhibitions, and we clicked, which led to our marriage. Even with all this, Emma still didn't seem to understand. She said, "An exhibition is just for fun. I'm clearly the winner here because I'm a CEO." I was frustrated and told her that this wasn't about winning or losing. I take my art seriously, even if she doesn't see it that way. Emma then asked why we live on the first floor if I'm making so much money. I explained that we used to live on a higher floor, but since I'm pregnant and elevators can't be slow, we moved to the first floor for convenience. Emma didn't seem to accept my explanation. My friends and even some classmates knew about my career as an artist, but Emma probably didn't consider it because she had no interest in art and looked down on me for being a dropout. I was about to share another detail when I saw David and Betty at the entrance. Betty was running towards me, with David following behind and looking a bit embarrassed. David apologized, saying he got caught up with work and brought Betty along. Emma then noticed David's sharp suit and asked why he was dressed up when he was in work clothes last time she saw him. David greeted my friends, thanking them for being kind to me and asking if there was anything they needed. Just then, the reunion organizer rushed over to thank us for providing the venue. He praised the food and drinks, saying everything was excellent. David's parents owned the hotel, and David, now the CEO, had generously offered it for free. Emma's face turned pale when she heard this. I dropped out of middle school and only have a high school diploma, which seems a bit unusual. There's a reason for it, but we live in different worlds. She had looked down on me as poor, but here I was as an artist and the wife of a CEO. Emma was shocked and asked why a dropout like me was married to someone so important while she, an elite, was still single. She seemed bitter and challenged me on how I managed it. David finally noticed Emma and said, "Oh, we've met before. Sorry for being in work clothes last time. I was helping with a neighborhood cleanup. As the owner of the high-rise, it's important to maintain good relations in the community." Emma's face went white. "Wait, you own that high-rise?" she asked. David explained that his family had been wealthy for generations, involved in hotel management and owning many properties, including the high-rise where we live. David then invited Emma to visit the penthouse, which has a great view of the Empire State Building. Emma was done again and asked why we lived on the first floor if we had a penthouse. I explained that, because I'm pregnant, we moved to the first floor for convenience, but both the penthouse and the first floor are ours. Emma was speechless and looked like she couldn't believe it. Seeing the reaction from our friends and feeling that I had ruined the reunion's atmosphere, I decided to leave with David and Betty. As we were leaving, Emma muttered something rude about a dropout being so cocky. I turned to Betty and said, "What matters most is what's inside. Never look down on people." Betty cheerfully added, "Emma, if you keep making faces like that, happiness will run away from you." Everyone laughed, and the mood of the reunion improved. Emma, now embarrassed, quickly left. The reunion continued on a positive note. I enjoyed the rest of the evening with my friends, who also had bad experiences with Emma. Betty's comment had made everyone feel better. Months went by, and we didn't see Emma at the high-rise again. One day, David came home and told me that Emma had finally moved out. She hadn't paid rent for 3 months, and we had to get a lawyer to issue an eviction notice. Emma left town quickly after that. David said Emma had left the apartment exactly as it was. Furniture and clothes were still there. She took her expensive items and computer, but left everything else behind. At first, I was suspicious, but a friend updated me on Emma's situation. It turns out she had been pretending to be successful but was actually jobless. She had some savings from her career, but couldn't keep up her lifestyle and fell behind on rent. She had no other place to go, so she left her belongings because she couldn't afford to get rid of them. I was disgusted to learn that Emma was still a burden to others. Even in her crisis, her terrible personality meant she had no friends or colleagues to help her. Now she's living in a rundown apartment and struggling with part-time jobs. She used to brag about being an elite and looked down on me as a dropout. I'm sure her pride is shattered now. I hope she learns to live a more humble and honest life. As for me, I'm happy with my life. I continue to paint, spend time with my husband and daughter, and look forward to our new baby. Our family of 3 gets along wonderfully, and I'm excited about expanding our family. I'll keep doing everything I can to protect our happiness.